Hello, welcome to another episode of Mega Manga Monday. I am Jason Hahn, and today we are talking about My Hero Academia, Chapter 355, titled Extras, which is also one of my favorite Ricky Gervais projects. But I am Jason Hahn. I am a writer for Screen Rant. I happen to write a lot of video game news and such, but I'm a huge manga fan, really into a lot of series. I've been a fan my entire life for plenty of mangas and animes. So I decided to start Mega Manga Monday to talk about new chapters of series I love with other people who also love manga. Today I got a couple Screen Rant buddies with me today to talk about this chapter of My Hero Academia that all had a lot of thoughts on. But I'll go ahead and let them introduce themselves. Steven, how about you, man?
Yeah, hello. My name's Steven. I've been writing for the comic section of Screen Rant for a little over a year now. Mostly writing about manga, but also getting into Sonic and Transformers and all that good stuff. But yeah, very excited about this chapter 355.
Yeah, a lot happened. We definitely picked up after the cliffhanger last week, but I'm happy that we're staying in this fight. But yeah, Carlyle, how are you, man?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, Dutch out this weekend. Now I'm back. I'm ready to go.
All right. Well, yeah, Carlyle is also a Screen Rant comics writer. He also is a game developer. He's been working on a visual novel, Elven Revenue Service, and been seeing a lot of good tweets about that. Definitely check that out if you're into visual novel kind of stuff. But yeah, but before we jump in, Ben, you there, Ben?
I am, yes. I'm Ben. I'm also a writer at Screen Rant in the comics section. I write mainly about manga and also about DC and Marvel comics as well. And I'm excited to dive into this chapter because it's a pretty big one.
Yeah, honestly, the more I read My Hero Academia, I mean, I haven't read. That's kind of the big reason I tend to enjoy, I think, a lot more Japanese comics than American comics. Is unlike a lot of Marvel and DC stuff, like these are all like long running series rather than a different artist or a different storyteller coming in and telling a short story essentially and turning it into a couple issues. So My Hero Academia is absolutely enjoying the benefit of that right now with the complexity of the Endeavor's family drama right now and how it's affecting this huge battle. It just so many payoffs I feel are happening now, and I love it, man. This chapter was incredibly action heavy. In my previous discussions about My Hero, I'm a huge All for One fan. He's just such a compelling, maniacal villain, and I just love how he always seems to be on top. And even when he is getting hit or United States punched in the face, it still all feels like it's according to plan. And you know what? These rugrats that are having to fight this overwhelming force seem to be doing pretty well in this chapter.
Yeah. Although I do have one sort of thing just to defend Western comics a little bit.
Do it.
Wow! Yeah, let's go.
Just to compare and contrast because I definitely think that My Hero is definitely reaping major benefits from like just having one long telling story. But I feel like it's also suffering a bit from having characters that just aren't really built up as much. Like Jiro got
True.
screen time in the festival arc and stuff like that, but and I'm enjoying her here, but it's just kind of like I wish I had seen more of her arc to get to this point. Like she has this great moment where she's like, "My problem is that you're the one who made my pals cry," and that's like, damn, that's such a good shonen moment. But it just sort of felt almost out of character for Jiro specifically. Like I don't know if I'm alone.
Because we don't know her enough.
Yeah,
right.
Is that what she would feel?
Whereas,
And that,
yeah, whereas
I
in
agree.
Western comics, it's like, you're playing with characters who have had tons and tons of history. So those can really take advantage of that, and having a hero show up out of nowhere who maybe hasn't gotten as much development in a current arc, but like the fans know who it is.
Mhm.
I do think I do think that Horikoshi's trying to capture that a bit by having this world filled with heroes that he can use because he is a fan of Western comics, and so he likes
Yes.
the sort of superhero team ups and all that stuff. But
Yeah,
it's just kind of
Vigilantes
unfortunate.
had that feel a lot because of just like the pro heroes are from My Hero Academia. They don't get much focus there, but they do like show up, and you're like, oh yes, of course, I know these guys.
Yeah, and that's really awesome. And it like makes me kind of wish that we'd gotten more, like not just Vigilantes, but maybe some more side series as well.
Yeah,
Just
I would
focusing
definitely
on-
like to see more stuff in this universe if that opportunity comes around.
Yeah, and it might, like we've got Boruto running after Naruto. We've got like
Yeah.
Dragon Ball series after Dragon Ball series. So I could see My Hero getting some sort of sequel series.
I do want to say one thing though about Western, because before we get too far off, I do want to say I'm still really upset when DC ended the New 52. I still think that's like the greatest era of modern DC, and when that
Ooh.
went away, I was very, 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 very sad.
That's a bit of a hot take, but
I will take that to my grave. I'm always finding myself like especially the Justice League, like that whole thing between Batman and the Green Lantern, like their whole rivalry was so awesome. And then there was also how Aquaman was being portrayed. Like everyone was like making fun of like his character because that he's always been the butt of the character, but it was like a big focus. Oh man, I don't know. But we're not talking about that right now. But
Yeah, I have my own opinions on the New 52, and I definitely agree that I think that it's more positive than negative. But actually, we should probably save this for
yeah,
another.
Right.
I could go on with you for a while about my thoughts on that.
Well, we can definitely get a lot more of these thoughts if you guys check out screenrant.com. All of these guys write very interesting articles about manga, DC, and Marvel, where their imaginations can fly. So definitely check that out as well. But yeah, to kind of go back to what you're saying, like I do agree, and that's kind of something we've brought up in a lot of these discussions. Is we just, for as much as we enjoy this series, a lot of it just feels so rushed. We almost wish that we could just see more of the series, because especially if we got to see Jiro's full growth up to this moment, it just, Horikoshi's kind of created this bit of My Hero Academia where all of the side students are almost like the same character. It seems like mentally. So I mean, that line that Jiro delivered, any one of the other students could have also said that. Imagine if Mineta was here and Mineta had to fight All for One, and he could absolutely say that line as well. Oh man, I really hope All for One gets hit with a Mineta ball by the end of this series. But yeah, again, some great panels. All for One, as I brought up in our previous discussion, he has so many abilities that we just don't know about, and I love the panel where his arm just turns into a big dark laser or whatever, and it's got a big nose on it, and it's just terrifying. It kind of reminds me of there's the bone guy in Naruto. It's not Kishi.
Oh yeah, Kimimaro.
Kimimaro, yes. Just his design and the twistedness of the bones just spawning out of him and stuff. It kind of gave me those types of vibes. And then you add a big nose to it. But
it just makes you really excited because there's the rumbling that Horikoshi is going to be doing horror manga after this. So we're seeing it's definitely, he has an affinity for it right now.
Yeah, there's no shortage of body horror in My Hero Academia.
Yeah. So it just gets you psyched out. Even though it's sad that My Hero is wrapping up at some point, it's like, oh man, we're getting these little glimpses of what could be in a horror manga. So it is exciting in that regard. It's a little bittersweet, but it has a silver lining to it.
Yeah, I'm honestly really excited for it. I mean, as much as I want this series to keep going, we know that he can deliver with action, and he is fantastic at drawing insane body horror moments in this series. That's just sounds like the perfect ingredients for a horror manga. I'm not sure if he's publishing it through Shonen Jump, if that's going to hold him back or not.
I hope not. Yeah,
Well, he might be in Jump Plus or something.
Yeah, there are a lot of other magazines.
Yeah, because then
I-
again, Chainsaw Man has kind of changed the game. Like, if they're gonna
Yeah, I don't
publish,
know why that's in Shonen.
yeah, if they're gonna publish One Punch Man, also, like, One Punch Man has some pretty gnarly and very sexy scenes that I'm like, I can't believe this is on Shonen Jump. But yeah, speaking of body horror in this one, Jiro took one hell of a hit, and she lost one of her like ear headphone thingamabobs.
I've been waiting for that to happen for so long because those things just look so fragile every time.
Yeah, I mean, and she's like throughout the series, she's used them almost like whips, and I'm not sure if that's going to grow back or not, but I almost wonder if she would have been more powerful if she used both of them at the same time for that like huge attack she used against All for One. I think they call it Heartbeat Surround Legato.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed her moment. I mean, that's kind of the thing we were saying is like all the side characters feel like they're the same, but it's also kind of made it so they can all have a cool moment. But it would have felt even cooler if there was more things tied to her character about it. Say if she...
I think there's two factors that really go into this. One is that we kind of treat the fact that they have a quirk as their distinguishing feature a lot of the time, and that's not really sufficient. And the other thing is that this is just a very common thing. I noticed this with Assassination Classroom as well. You have to have a full classroom worth of students. You end up with like 25, 30 students. You don't need that many characters, so a lot of them are just going to end up kind of boring and pointless by default. Like,
Yeah.
Except in Black Clover.
Yeah.
There's my Black Clover comment for the day.
We can't have a podcast with Steven without the mention of Black Clover. But yeah, I totally agree. And that kind of makes it so, I mean, we're 355 chapters in, and we just wish that they would have focused on, you know, all these other characters a little bit more. But they've focused on Jiro more than they focused on insert this class student's name.
Pale guy,
Yeah.
animals,
Weird eye, yeah.
Sarah.
Animal Man, the one with the balls,
the Dupla arms.
And the only reason why we know Aoyama is because of the whole traitor thing, which was very like what when it happened.
Yeah.
But
And
like
also
before, I just knew him as like the French guy or or like the naval guy. Like that was it.
And that also kind of like didn't really necessarily hit with like he could have been. Well, I know that it was teased like, oh, it could be Invisible Girl.
That was
And it easily could have been Invisible Girl for the
Yes.
same story impact.
I hate to
like,
say it, but I literally forgot Invisible Girl existed. I haven't thought
well,
about
she
her
is
in so
invisible,
long.
so
he is invisible. Sadly.
no. But it was like, I think that's sort of like quote unquote twist that it's like, oh, is it Invisible Girl? No, it's Naval Guy, and it's like, oh well, that is the same impact because they've got the same amount of development basically. I
They're
think
both
kinda
definitely tied for the least at the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to plug in another underrated manga, the Blue Exorcist did a better job at the whole traitor thing.
Okay.
I won't give it away since it wasn't in the anime yet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
like another really underrated manga that does a lot of good things is Blue Exorcist, just because they had a whole traitor arc as well, and it was done much better.
speaking of traitors and things betraying you, I called it. I called the quirks back. So
Yeah.
I'm actually really happy that happened. Like just because I was saying in the last two podcasts, not the last one, but like the whole thing where I'm thinking that All Might's ghost could come and attack All for One, which is like what's happening here, except it's the consciousness of other quirk users. So I'm excited that that's happening right now.
Yeah, I know we've talked about that. I just forget to what extent we talked about it because I'm having the same. ideas come up possibly, and I may have said this already, forgive me, if you're an extensive listener of Mega Manga Mondays and listen to every single one and you know exactly everything we've said, I apologize. I might repeat myself here, but doesn't All Might need to die for that? Because anytime like we've seen Deku go into his head and talk to his vestiges, there's like a weird ghostly silhouette of an All Might.
Oh no!
Talks,
This is just in regards to the consciousness of the user, because the whole theory with that is, or my theory is that it doesn't have to be, it just because when a quirk is stolen, the consciousness of that person is always within that quirk, and I'm thinking that not just their consciousness is in that quirk, but anything that they're thinking can manifest in that quirk. So, for example, if everyone is thinking about All Might, then All Might could appear in the consciousness of those quirks. And since All for One has a lot of quirks that he's stolen, if all of those people think of All Might, what happened here could happen with All Might's ghost and go rampant.
Well, we know that All Might's the real living All Might could kind of get a feel for what the vestige All Might inside of Deku's mind was doing and thinking. Like he had some impressions of what was going on while Midoriya was unconscious.
Yeah.
So there's a connection there, and I definitely think that if this battle does end up in the Mindscape, as we discussed a couple times previously as well, we could see Midoriya and All Might fighting side by side one more time, and I would absolutely love to see
hell yeah,
All for One have to face off with his ghost of his younger brother.
Well, actually,
I think that'll be really exciting.
Carlyle, actually, does something like this happen in Vigilantes? Like, is there more explained about the consciousness of users and quirks?
A little bit. There's because of the way that Six works and his quirk came from another hero, he kind of has a vestige of that hero, but All for One, because he got the quirk from All for One was able to manipulate and use this vestige as a personality of himself. So he was kind of giving him not bad advice, but evil advice to accomplish things. But he was doing it through the appearance of this other hero. And he was able to observe and watch everything that was going on too. So if he can spy on people through the quirks that he's given them, no wonder he has such amazing intelligence on everything that's going on all the time. He's had so many deals with so many people over the years that he probably gets an insane amount of information regularly,
consistently.
Yeah, have you written about this? I think that sounds like a Screen Rant pitch.
I talked about it a little bit in the past. Maybe it'll come up again now. I have to find after these chats. I've got some ideas I want to write about.
I love the idea.
It makes you wonder, why he didn't see through the whole traitor thing, betraying him, right? If he could, if he had to deal with that.
It's possible because we know that he also gives a lot of these quirks to Garaki, the doctor guy, the quirk singularity guy. They share them with him and they clone the quirks and stuff like that. So it's possible it didn't come directly from him in Aoyama's case.
Well, yeah, I think at that point, I think he had his parents, possibly with a quirk, but he had given Aoyama the quirk, but was it directly said that he put a vestige sort of thing in Aoyama?
Yeah. We definitely saw that explicitly happening in Vigilantes, and we didn't see that explicitly happening here, so it's hard to say with Aoyama.
I feel like that's a flaw in All for One's plan then. He should have just done it, because then he would have had a mole inside UA that he could, see directly from. Right.
Yeah, that would have been much better.
There must be limitations to it. I mean, otherwise he probably would have, put something like that in every single person he's ever taken or given powers to. But yeah, I mean, it's probably a lot I'd say I just rewatched Man of Steel recently, and there's a scene where young Clark Kent is like way overwhelmed in the classroom because his powers are manifesting and he's just hearing like everything and everybody all at once, and it's just way too much. I'm almost wondering if it'd be something similar with All for One. Like there's only so many vestiges and, you know, outputs he can absorb without his brain exploding.
Another thing with this is like this is such a niche thing. Like there's so few people who can do what he does that the good guys wouldn't have any idea what he's capable of in terms of this. Like nobody else is going to know about vestiges.
Yeah, and that's another reason why I didn't think that these people were going to be able to take down All for One, and I'm still not convinced. I mean, they're betting on the mask being what he needs to keep going. So
They're trying to pull a Bane, man. They're trying to all these DC
Little did they know the mask was actually his limiter.
yeah, he's about to unleash the 8 gates. But Steven, I know right when the chapter dropped, you seemed very excited about some things to talk about certain topics. I know previously you had discussed that the fan translation had put out different information that was a little bit more exciting.
did I say that? Oh, because
well, that was a previous chapter. I was gonna ask if that was the same thing that happened here, or if
it did happen here actually. Because before this, I went to go read the official translation, and even though the official translation is good, it just doesn't have as much feeling as the fan translation. Because in the fan translation, you know, when Endeavor's on the ground, you know, he's like all messed up.
yeah, beginning of the chapter,
yeah, and he says when he's like thinking about Shoto and Dabi, he calls them my boys. ... Like it was just like just those 2 words just like really resonated with me. Like here he just says Shoto and Toya, I hope you're both okay, you know. But by calling them my boys, like it just, I don't know.
yeah, I get it.
It's a very personal way of saying it, and like even though the moment is still strong here, but I just was just really excited by that, just because I've been hoping that something like this would happen. You know, I've been saying on past podcasts, you know, that I've always been, you know, bummed that, you know, Endeavor and Dabi might not have that big moment that we've been building towards, and right now, just how everything is being written, he's still having an experience with Dabi, even though he's not actually there. Like we're seeing him thinking about Dabi, and especially right here. I mean, it's a pretty powerful moment that it's almost.
Well, just to add on to that, he's not really referring to him as Dabi, because Dabi, you know,
like,
Dabi's the evil version. Like he's going back to my boy Shoto, my boy Toya. Like absolutely, man. I could see how those words would hit a little bit harder in the fan translation.
It makes you wonder which translation is more accurate to the
I'm thinking
original.
it's the fans. I think it's the fans, just because like based on other ones, like remember the one about the mix? It was like when Dabi was
the ramen and like
the ramen thing. Like it seems like that they're much more in tuned with the language. I mean, that which makes no sense because the translators at Shonen Jump are, you know, experts, obviously. But
and like this is a pretty straightforward translation as opposed to just like kind of a reference that only
I think that's the big difference is the fan translators are very familiar with the source material, whereas
that's true. Yeah.
From what I've seen, at least, I obviously haven't read every manga on Shonen Jump, but there's a lot of the time where you can see it's the same handful of translators that are doing most everything. And if you've got so many series to keep up with, it can be really hard to keep that information straight, I imagine.
And I would imagine they're probably trained to translate it to appeal to the biggest audience possible, rather than it being as, you know, as Japanese as possible. So with this case, they're probably just like, okay, we need to remind the audience of what their names are, for those people who don't like read it week to week. I think that they probably try to translate it with the largest audience possible.
It's the classic sort of translation debate where do you translate it as literally as possible, or do you translate it to like for the reader, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because oftentimes if you translate literally, it can be detrimental to or not detrimental, but it can be like less readable than it would be if you translate it for just the reader in mind and take liberties with what you're translating.
Or
So,
also, you have to be familiar with the actual writer as well. Like if,
yeah,
like even though, because I mean, there's a lot to signify in a language. So I mean, there's many ways you can translate something, but you should always take into consideration Horikoshi himself in this case and how he's written before. So I mean, I don't know.
yeah.
There's a lot of moving parts. I'm not a translator, so I don't know. But
Yeah, and we don't have the
I have
original
enough.
Japanese.
I have enough problems with English, you know. So.
We don't have the original Japanese in front of us to really like judge on this topic, but it is interesting.
But even if the fans were wrong in the translation, I liked it more.
Yeah, no, and
Right.
and that's also a factor that matters, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, each translation is basically its own work in a way. And
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Well, what were some other favorite bits about this chapter that really stood out for you guys? Because I definitely brought up everything I was really feeling.
You want to go, Carlyle or Ben? I've been talking a lot, so.
Yeah, I was gonna flip through here again and see if there was something else. The Quark Rebellion thing obviously was the big deal. That was what got my attention most. But we did talk about that a little bit already.
yeah, I feel like pretty much everything I wanted to talk about was covered.
On the topic of the translation things, I really like harangued by this foul duo. That's pretty good.
Yeah, like I feel
What page
like
is that on?
it's on
That's like the
page,
second or third page. Yeah.
3.
Oh.
I've been reading a lot of like old like Silver Age comics recently, and
Oh boy!
it
Where
just
everything has a
reminded me
label
of
on it.
that. What? Yeah, it's just the classic sort of old timey comics feel, and I dug that for All for One.
Well, yeah, those are actually some of my favorite bits. Same thing with Shigaraki too. Is whenever they let their nerdum out, like All for One is a huge like old school comic book fan, and Shigaraki's a huge gamer, so he's just consistently like, "Oh, the final boss," and "Oh, I need a power up" or something like that. I love it when they let those sort of things shine. But yeah, back to the Quark Rebellion. Like, I I really like how well it was drawn. It's one of those things where it just kind of further pushes. Like, I think that's what's going to be the major downfall for All for One at the end, whether it be through this version of him or Shigaraki. I almost feel like because this is our first instance of it, it's going to be a rule of threes kind of thing. Where I think it's going to happen again, and then it's going to happen bigger and better than ever. So I almost think that this is like the first preview of the downfall or the final downfall of All for One.
I think like that might be like the this would definitely be the second one after New Order, but I think that it might be interesting to have that be like the All Might symbol of peace kind of thing. Like, the symbol is here for all these fragments of souls that are trapped in there that have been waiting for their chance. This is the moment. This is your best shot. All Might is here. How else are you going to be able to do this if you don't do it right now? So I think that if there's going to be something that starts it off for the last time, it's probably going to be that face off.
Yeah, I absolutely think so. And I would almost say that this moment, because yeah, I guess you could technically say the Stars and Stripes thing, kind of, but that was Shigaraki's version. That wasn't necessarily this version of him. So I'm sure
they were like in a fused state still. Like there was a part of him, like All for One was still there, but then there was that was another fan translation thing that we lost in here, because there was a little while back when the fusion was first, it was still happening. Like the fan translations were, picking up on the fact that it's like Shigaraki is using aura which actually is something that all for one would say. Like they were getting very into the language where it's like Shigaraki is speaking, but he's speaking in a manner that is more like all for one.
Okay.
Which is really cool because like they've been kind of going into that here. You know, when they were fused, it's like, well, who's who? Like, is it two all for ones? Like, what's going on? But like the fans, like their translations were helping. It was like showing that they were becoming one, but at the same time, the parts of each side were still battling, which is very interesting. But, yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess my point I was trying to get to is just like this is almost because not counting the stars and stripes thing, because I guess we could still argue like we don't know to what degree Shigaraki and All for One are fused at. We haven't really had that fully explained yet. But this is almost like the turning point for All for One. Like, as I said in the beginning of the chapter, like I'm a huge fan of how he's written and his design and how on top of everything he is. And this is the first time that something like unexpected happened for him. And so I almost feel like this is the start of his major downfall. And I'm hoping they prove me wrong, because as I've said before, I really hope that as much as I enjoy these characters, and I want the good guys to win, of course, but I almost want everyone to lose here, and then All for One to show up at another battle, because I would absolutely love to watch him just keep fighting, because he has such command of all the limitless quirks he's got and all that stuff. So,
well, actually, go. Oh no, go.
All I was going to say is definitely curious to see what happens after this helmet's broken. So,
yeah, and just to go off of that, like one thing I'm really happy like how it turned out was that Jiro, she would have failed initially. Like that is the impression I'm getting, if the vestiges didn't grab a hold of All for One, because it was very clear that when she was going for him, doing the heartbeat surround legato, like All for One had it pretty much in the bag. Like he was going to be able to counter it.
yeah.
And the only reason why he lost is because of that, the vestiges coming, which he wasn't expecting. And I'm really glad that happened, just because even though I love shonen, those formulas can get kind of old really quick, like where just the weak hero is able to overcome the villain just because they have their conviction or whatnot. So I was just really happy that it turned out that way, that the only reason why they were able to get the upper hand on All for One was because those vestiges got involved. And it just goes back to the whole thing about My Hero too, where it's all about teamwork. It's not just one person. It's usually everyone working together as a team, which I like.
Oh yeah,
I'm looking
exactly.
at this panel again. Is that Ragdoll? Is she one of the?
Oh,
Yeah,
You're
I'm pretty
holding him
sure.
down?
Yeah,
because he
it.
did steal her. Yeah, he did steal her.
Yeah.
And I was wondering. I've been looking at that panel for a bit. And I've been wondering like, who is this person who got special focus here? She looks familiar, but I can't quite tell.
Oh yeah,
I think
because
you're exactly right.
we got panels of the quirks kind of rebelling against All for One, and yeah, there was like one lady that got a little extra focus, and was Ragdoll one of the like cat?
Yeah.
She's the one. Like, and she got some focus early on too, but they didn't really go into it, like because they invited her to the group, and it was like, oh man, what's her whole thing going to be? Just because she did get her quirk stolen, so it's like, why is she there? Type of deal. So it was exciting. So maybe that could be, this could be a kind of answer to that.
Yeah, so I'm almost wondering if we're going to get some sort of big reveal on whose quirk he's taken that we didn't know about. Because I almost feel like there's some potential there for like some big reveal on, especially because we're establishing that the quirks, have a form of mind of their own, essentially, or a will of their own. Mm-hmm. So I'm almost wondering if that's just priming some big reveal down the road.
I feel like that would be hard to set up though, because if he took their quirk, then they wouldn't have it anymore, right? So I'm not sure how that twist would actually work.
Well, it would depend on the circumstances, because like if he just straight up stole it, then obviously they don't have it anymore. But if it was somebody who perhaps had dealings with him in the past, then it might be one of those scenarios where he took it and cloned it and gave them back the clone version. He's
So
done
it
that
would
a
be
couple
like
times.
it'd be like another traitor, sort of.
Kind of.
Or even like it could lead us to Flashback City that we definitely need for this series, like on the origin of the quirks and stuff. Like, what if he stole the quirk of the very first child, who
Yeah.
I brought up in an
He
earlier
just took the
discussion?
glow baby quirk for fun.
The Glow Baby, yeah. Well, after Glow Baby happened, then everyone started being born with quirks. So I've been, ever since that was revealed, I was just like, okay, well, we definitely have to get back to that. Like,
Oh, I don't think we're getting back to that.
You
I
don't-
don't think Glow Baby's gonna come up.
oh, I think
But-
Glow Baby has to come up. They can't just like have the whole series start with that and then never bring it back again. Like,
I feel like Horikoshi's had the opportunity to dive into like more about the exact origin of quirks and stuff, and like, but I think that they don't really care based on what they've chosen to focus on. I think they care a lot more about like the early days of quirks, not necessarily where quirks come from. And to be fair, I also care more about the early days of quirks more than where the quirks actually came from
Really?
and how they manifested. Yeah, because
Oh.
I think it's cool, which is why I need to read Vigilantes.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff about how Hero Society got started in the U.S. actually. So that, like, there's a
Oh,
lot of like
fascinating.
insight into stuff that we don't touch on at all in the main series.
I was just about to say that, like, on how much I'm really curious on how early Quark Society like started and what it was like when society was just starting to get used to quirks and stuff. Because that sounds fascinating, and that's kind of another reason I wish that we'd go into a big flashback on the beginning of it, because I almost feel like they could knock that all out in the same flashback of showing, kind of building up the world and how it was first reacting to quirks, and also the first quirked child. I just
I
feel
just
like,
want to see more of All for One too, like his past.
oh, for sure. That I'm not sure if we're going to get more of, because we had, I think it was when Deku first had the vestiges kind of awaken in him. He was getting the flashbacks of All for One's brother. And
Wait, when was this happening? Wait, what are you referencing?
man, was it during the Class 1A, 1B episode? Yeah, that's when it was. It was during the arc that nobody liked. But it was.
That's why that's why I actually think that we are going to get more All for One flashbacks, because I think we're going to see more of that.
Like a portion
yeah.
like they did with Dabi, where we only saw the first part of his past, and then just a few chapters ago they just filled in even more. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Well,
if we have a match off between the ghost of his brother and All for One, we'll definitely be talking about that past some more.
Yeah, it's just because also too, like I want to feel sorry for him, like just because a lot of the other villains in My Hero Academia, like I don't want them to lose because that we've gotten their background, and it's like even though they're the bad guys, it's like I'm invested in them as well. And it would be a treat if I felt the same way about All for One, just because right now he's just the bad guy. He's the big jerk who
The super
manipulates
bad
people.
guy. Well, yeah,
Yeah,
last week we
bad
talked
guy.
about Spinner for like 20 minutes. Like,
Yeah.
Spinner's
Yeah.
backstory is quite tragic, especially with recent developments. Like, he's full on turned into beast mode that society was afraid he was.
Yeah, that was a good reading. I like that. Yeah, that was good. 'Cause I didn't see that before.
I don't think All for One has a redeemable. He's not going to have a redeemable thing, but I think you kind of were bringing up the whole series is about friendship and teamwork and stuff like that, and friends together with the things that they can accomplish together rather than alone. And yeah, I absolutely see. I think you guys called the end of the series or how the last fight's going to go. I think it's going to all the quirks are going to be like, oh, hey, there's a symbol of peace that I would rather lend my powers to, and that'll end up in the Mind Palace or whatever, the Mind Realm, the Shadow Realm, is I think the place where we're gonna get like Oh man, I hope an All Might and Deku team up, because that was probably
That'd be dope.
my favorite moment that they've had in the movies so far.
Yeah,
I went and saw the first movie in theaters, and the whole crowd was just like laughing and crying, and oh man, that was
I'm in
so
North
cool.
Carolina, so when we got that North Carolina smash, the entire theater went crazy. Never seen anything like it.
Oh man, a good anime movie with the right crowd, that's some peak humanity there.
Yeah.
And yeah, all for one doesn't want none of that. He would be the guy in the theater getting annoyed at everybody ruining the movie for him. But and I think that's what the end of the series is going to turn into. Like, I think it's going to be all for one, all standing there all by himself with none of his quirks left after they've all like decided to help one for all instead, and he's just going to be there all by himself. And then maybe Shigaraki will be like, take my hand, I'll take you, and then he does it, and then he disintegrates all for one. Calling it. We
You know,
just,
My,
Go, go.
I was going to say, in the past, I wrote about this already, but my vision, my prediction for the end of this series is that All for One's secret motive all along has just been to reclaim his brother's soul, because he put it in this other quirk, and it's been fighting against him for all this time, and all he really wants is to be reunited with his brother. And so
Oh.
that'll be his human moment before he is obliterated. Just like,
That's
oh,
the-
that was what I really wanted all along.
I
yeah,
like
Still
that's
is
good.
distracted.
I do really like that reading too. I mean, because it's like everyone, and that's what Horikoshi does really well too. It's like everyone, like everyone isn't born a villain. Like they're, no matter who they are. Like it's like you become a villain through life, and that's something that I think is still the same with All for One. I mean, he didn't was born a monster. And I would like to see something like that. We were just saying, Carlyle. I mean, even too, like we're talking about the movies, like even in World Heroes Mission. I mean, I don't even remember much, but I only saw it once and it was a while ago. But even the big bad in that movie, he's trying to destroy, all quirks and kill everyone, and like even him, like his background was like, oh my god, like it's like you kind of see where he's coming from, even though he's trying to do this horrible thing, and it's just that I think it would be really lost if we didn't get something like that for All for One, just because every single villain seems to have that. Um,
Well, yeah,
but I mean, actually, but also too, like I want to pose a question for everyone. Like with like the only one I've always had problems getting behind completely is Shigaraki. And I'm just curious. Like I don't want to get too far off base, but like I was just like his background. I was always behind him 100%, and what he was going through. He ended up killing his dad and stuff. But then right after that, like he ends up killing his entire family too. Like even his sister, who was like trying to help him out through everything.
well,
and,
it was in
and
reverse.
afterwards-
It was in reverse there, because he accidentally melted the dog, and the sister saw it, and then he was like, "No, don't tell mom," and he
Oh, right,
accidentally
right.
melted the sister.
Right.
Mom
But
saw
then
that
afterwards, he
too.
didn't- but then he didn't even care. Like afterwards, he's like, "Oh, maybe it was the right thing." Because I remember there was like a twist afterwards. It's like, "Oh man, he did this all by accident." But then afterwards, he's like, "Oh, you know what? Maybe it was a good thing that happened." Or he didn't even feel bad that. Like there was a comment that he makes, like when he's wandering the streets by himself. It's like maybe it was better that I killed my entire family. And like ever since that point, I don't know if anyone else remembers that, but it's just always stuck with me. It's like Shigaraki, even though like he has that tragic background, like I've always just remembered that one thought in his head where he's like, "Yeah, maybe it was the right thing that I killed everyone." I don't know if anyone else
I
feels the
honestly
same.
don't remember that, and if I did, I feel like that would dramatically change my input on my feelings on Shigaraki, because that would change his entire thing. I don't remember that line. I thought he was found by All for One pretty shortly after that, to the point where All for One even managed to like get the hands.
Did I imagine that? Now I have to go read
I
back
think
and see.
I think it was like, it might not have been a line, but I think like over time I think it's more like he was like, I killed my like father like on purpose, kind of like he retconned that bit of his past almost. But
Is it?
but
I'm gonna have to go back because I just remember like it's still like maybe if I made it up, then that means that's pretty intense because it's always been sticking with me. It's like, man, Shigaraki's still a jerk.
Right.
Oh man, I cut
Yeah,
this
that would
out.
kind of change his character, but yeah, kind of going back
Maybe I'm
to another
watching it.
flashback that in the 1B, 1A versus 1B arc, back when Deku is talking to All for One's little brother, it's kind of revealed that it was, way back when quirks were still kind of getting figured out, but All for One was almost acting as a mediary between like gangs and stuff like that, and he was almost getting them all on his side. Like he was forming an army at that point already. Like, and he was keeping his younger brother like imprisoned because he didn't have a quirk. He didn't know about apparently. And I think that if I remember correctly, that was the whole thing. Was All for One was just like, brother, I feel sorry for you because you don't have any powers, and I'm gonna forcibly give you this power so then you can be stronger and be by my side. So I really like Carlyle's idea. I think that
Yeah.
he's onto something there on how he still cares about his brother and he still wants to be able to see him someday. But again, that's more flashback that I feel like the series needs to do is that and the fight that crippled him. I really want to see the All Might fight between All for One and him that hurt
Yeah.
All Might that badly and hurt All for or One for All
Which
so badly.
I unfortunately think we're not gonna get. There've been too many opportunities to have that before this point. That I feel like, I feel like it's just gonna get left up in the air, kind of.
I know they could do. He could pull a Hunter x Hunter and just in the middle of nothing, just snap back to that fight and be like, "Oh yeah, I forgot. I know people really want to see this fight, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do this."
I'll defend Hunter x Hunter's flashbacks to the day I die.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying it was a bad thing. Oh well, I'm talking about the Hisoka Crollo fight because just in the middle of the info dump that is the Dark arc, they're just like, "Oh yeah, all that's going on."
Yeah, we should. Yeah, let's go see what the Phantom Troop's up to.
Yeah, let's go see. Let's go. There's like no setup. They literally just come up to Heaven's Arena and they're like, "All right, this fight is happening," and you're like, "Oh, what? What? Oh, I'm ready."
I'll defend that because I think we're gonna. I mean, with the manga returning,
I'm
which
so
is very
excited.
exciting.
Yeah.
I feel like that's gonna come into play, but
Hope so.
yeah, but I'm sure we'll have some podcast episodes when that comes back.
Yeah.
That'll be very exciting.
Yeah, I get the impression we have a good amount of Hunter x Hunter fans. So yeah, we'll probably be talking about it whenever that happens.
Yeah.
But according to the dude's Twitter, he's making some good progress. So that's encouraging.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see if My Hero Academia wraps up before that. Before Hunter x Hunter returns. We said in the beginning of this conversation, I don't remember if we're recording or not, but they've said that this series is really coming to an end, and it's starting to feel like One Piece in the way where they're like, okay, yeah, we only need this many years to tell the story, and then you get into it and you're like, I don't feel like this is ending like incredibly soon, especially with all the things we just said we feel the story needs to include still.
I get like I said this in response to that is that like I feel like it's a bit different because there's definitely an end in sight. I feel like maybe it's not going to end in 2022 as was projected, but I think it'll definitely end by the end of 2023.
Oh yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, that's a year and a half. That's like 70 something chapters still.
Yeah. No. So it's not like a short amount of time till the ending, but it's like with One Piece, I feel like I have no idea when that series is gonna end. Like that could go on forever.
Yeah.
Still have stuff to talk about, whereas here things seem to be coming to a close because I think we can count the number of fights that we could expect to see, and then like maybe we could just factor in some other fights that could show up. And if we say that each of those fights probably lasts like 2 to 3 chapters, or maybe more in the case of like the final fight, right? Then I think I think the end might be sooner than we expect.
Yeah, and who knows? I mean, this could legitimately. I would be incredibly disappointed, but if this is the end of this fight, like, oh no, my helmet's broken. Now I can't fight anymore, says the most powerful villain the series has ever known. God, I hope not. But as we've said previously, too, this series has suffered from many instances where they're just like, oh man, that would have been so good if they also did that like arcs away. But no, we just kind of quickly glanced over that Aoyama's the traitor, and now we're just going. We're just going to keep going. Like I'm afraid that the series is going to keep doing what it's been doing, and it might wrap up too quickly, and then we'll be like, oh man, well we still needed to see all these other things. Any more thoughts on My Hero Academia 355 before? I don't know. We've been kind of talking about what we think is going to happen next, but yeah, any more thoughts in My Hero Academia, guys?
Well, I mean, I'm going back like ever since I last brought up that thing about Shigaraki, I went back and now I have to check the official translation because I know back in the day I was reading only the fan translation, and the fan translation definitely creates that impression. Like right before he kills his because it was after he killed his sister and stuff. But right before he was gonna kill the rest of his family, he's in the fan translation, and I'm gonna have to check the actual official one, where he's going like, thinking back, maybe I already understood what was really going on. Your father, he knows how hard it is for heroes. Why'd they always make up excuses for him? And it's like, don't cry. That's all they ever had to say to me. I can't take this anymore. And then he kills the rest of his family. That's why. That's where I was thinking. Now I have to see if that's in the actual official translation. So that's probably why. Because yeah, when you hear it that way, it's like, oh my God, Shigaraki, whoa.
Yeah, that's different.
Which chapter was
that? 236.
Okay.
Because that was back when I was taking crazy notes on every chapter. So that's. But yeah, like yeah, I'm wondering because that's really. If that isn't in the official translation, that would be a shame. Because I mean, it makes you feel bad for him, but at the same time, it adds a whole other layer to his character.
Yeah. In the official translation, it says, "Thinking back, maybe I already stood what was going on.
Yeah.
Why'd they always make up excuses for him?
Yeah.
It built up little by little over time. I hate everyone."
And then he kills him.
Yeah, and then he kills him.
So okay, well there we go.
Man, he is a bad guy.
Yeah.
Well, at least I'm not going crazy. Okay, I thought I made that up in my head. I was like, oh no.
Well, yeah. I mean, so there's that for Shigaraki. I totally didn't realize that. I guess I glanced over. I just missed that line. But that definitely. I mean, we still have the whole bit that Deku saw when they were in the Shadow Realm. On how he still just seems like the sad kid who needs help. Which is the part that I remembered about the flashback, even like, because I was just imagining, like many good stories, they immerse you into it. And I was just imagining if I was in his shoes and my quirk manifested, and I literally just like melted my best friend in my arms, and then my sister, like, and then my abusive father shows up and he's beating me with a pipe because I'm a scared, terrified little boy who just did unimaginable things I'll never recover from. Like, yeah, I kind of get it. I mean, Shigaraki was just one of those people that was born with a quirk that is just terrifying. Like, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, I have no idea how society, which is why I'm even more interested in, early quirk society, is when you have people who are born or whose quirks manifest to anything from I have a star on the side or a star-shaped thing on the side of my head to I can literally create a crater around me by touching the ground. Like, there's gotta be like safety regulations on people's quirks manifesting and stuff, because it's wild.
Well, and actually, I mean, just like talking about this, like, I guess it's another reason why I'm so bummed that Undead Unluck hasn't been tracking that well on Shonen Jump. Just because they have like the same type of dynamic, except with the heroes. Like each hero has a very terrifying power, and each time that power came to be, something horrible happened. And it's just like, oh man, why isn't Undead Unlocked doing it? Sad.
Well, it's still going. It hasn't been canceled yet, so.
Yep. And it is cancellation season because
It's cancellation
Ayashimon and Protect Me Shugumaru have both ended in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if any other series have, but I could be
Well,
wrong.
I think Doran is actually coming to a close. I was seeing rumors of that.
I'm not upset about that.
Nah.
Oh yeah, and Black Clover got canceled too. So.
Well,
That's like, My Hero says, "Oh, we're in the final arc." It's like Black Clover's like, "Oh, we're going into the final arc." So that could still be another year or two of manga content.
Oh yeah, like
from
there's still a lot
Black Clover.
less to happen. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah.
But also too, like I'll just say this really quick. Like just going back in the memory lane with My Hero, like the 200s were definitely the best of My Hero, and it's just kind of sad. Like just because in recent in recent chapters, like it's you can kind of tell that things are being rushed, and it's just a shame. Like I don't know, like just because it really is a great series, and it's just it's kind of frustrating.
Well, yeah, Horikoshi has successfully created a fascinating world, and it seems like most of our gripes are we want more of it.
More.
Like we want a deep dive into this world and how it works. But yeah, I think that'll about wrap up our Mega Manga Mondays episode of My Hero Academia 355. I think we might go ahead and move into plugs and recommendations, unless you guys have any more thoughts.
I'm shaking my head.
No.
No? All right, cool. Well, I am Jason Hahn, and as I said, this is Mega Manga Monday. I would love it if you checked out other series that we cover on the podcast. If you're caught up on series like Dragon Ball Super, Jujutsu Kaisen, One Piece, we do all kinds of talks on different series. And we have a good time doing it on most of them. Sometimes there's a bad chapter, and then we fight about it, and that's entertaining to hear as well. So, but yeah, definitely check out the podcast. We're on Spotify, YouTube, and all kinds of stuff. I also do another YouTube series called Honzy and Friends. I play different games with friends and stream. We do lots of laughs. So many laughs and smiles. So definitely check that out if you're into video games and comedy. But yeah, Ben, any recommendations or plugs, man?
Yeah, on the manga side of things, I know I've mentioned this series before, but Akane Banashi is in like one of its most hype points, I'd say, so far. And it's kind of weird that I'm talking about hype moments in a manga about an obscure form of Japanese comedy, but it's very fun. It's a very good series, and I will recommend it to the day I die.
Also, too, like, sorry to break in, but like, didn't Oda I don't know if you heard, but Oda was like, yeah, like this manga a lot.
Yeah, the mangaka for One Piece did recommend it, which I'm very glad about because hopefully that will let it survive a bit longer because it is kind of a niche series. So I hope that it gets its full time to tell the story that it wants to tell, and it's introducing some fun new sort of rival characters almost, and I'm very excited to see where it goes from here. So definitely check that out if you're interested in it. And then on a different note, I've also started trying to read through Marvel, the old Marvel comics, back from the Silver Age, which I think I mentioned a bit earlier in this podcast, but and it's very fun. So I recommend if you're into Marvel comics or into comics in general to maybe check some of those out because that's where a lot of the pop culture icons come from, and it's very interesting to see how different and the same they are way back when. So Yeah, and then in terms of just plugs for myself, I also have a YouTube channel called YGO from Zero, where I kind of explore historical formats of the Yu-Gi-Oh trading card game. And so if that sounds like something that might appeal to you, then be sure to check that out.
Excellent. And again, that manga was Akane Banashi, was it?
Yep, Akane Benashi. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that is also on the Shonen Jump app, which yeah, we were just gushing about it. We're not paid by them yet. We would love to be sponsored by them, but we're just huge fans of those guys. It's I think you can download the app for like $2 a month, and you get literally thousands of chapters of manga, popular series throughout the years. Like they just have it all, and you can scroll through it on your phone. It's incredibly easy and wonderful. But Carlyle, how about you, man?
Yeah, you know, still working on Elven Revenue Service. We might be trying to come up with a new name. That was always supposed to be just kind of a placeholder name. So we're testing some other titles right now, but that's where that is.
Oh, excellent. So for now, people can still just Google Elven Revenue Service.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And you guys had a new demo come out a couple weeks ago, yeah?
Yeah, just at the beginning of May, we had the new demo. It's got the whole bar system worked out. So it's definitely give it a try. We've had a couple more streamers play through it, including some people who finally made it to the actual bar management part. So you can find some streamer videos on Twitter from us and see how the game looks before you download it if you want.
Awesome. Well, yeah, if you're into visual novels, Carlisle's making a pretty interesting game of the tax revenue service in a fantasy realm, and some pretty cool character designs and some pretty cool ideas. So definitely check that out if that's your bag. Any new series or any shows or mangas you'd recommend or like to recommend?
We've just been rewatching a lot of older anime, and I think most recently started back with Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex. That classic forever. Always recommend. Peak Cyberpunk.
Definitely. Yeah, it wasn't that the one with Scarlett Johansson? I'm sorry.
That's my favorite anime.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the one where she uses more than 10% of her brain, right?
Yeah.
Steven, how about you, man?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll actually start by saying I'm really sad. Like I saw on Twitter, Honzy and friends, you guys did a stream of God of War, and I missed it. It's like one of my. I'm not a big gamer, but I'm a huge God of War fan. So is that going to be? Can you watch that stream, or are you making that available?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, if you check out the Honzy and Friends YouTube page, I've got. That's the thing about YouTube versus Twitch is just whenever you stream on YouTube, it just stays there. So yeah, if you just go to the Honzy and Friends YouTube page, it'll be on there. The other day, I also streamed the new Diablo Immortal, which is free to play and surprisingly super fun. I was enjoying that a lot too. But yeah, I started the new God of War on that last stream because we're supposed to have a bunch of new video game trailers and stuff, and I was really surprised Sony didn't show anything on the new God of War game, God of War Ragnarok.
I'm actually really waiting for that.
Yeah. There's a content creator I respect immensely, and she got hired to write on that game. So I'm incredibly excited for it, and I'll probably play through more of 2018's God of War on the Honzy and Friends channel. So definitely check that out.
Yeah, it's definitely my favorite out of them all. I like the focus on Norwegian or Norse mythology. I like that.
Yeah, the shift from like Greek mythology to that is just so well done. And I was commenting on the stream actually. I was just like the old God of War games are just very like button mashy and crazy action games. And they've just shifted gears so much, and it's just so dramatic and so well done. It's beautiful storytelling, and my eyes get leaky sometimes. So yeah, can't recommend it enough. But yeah, Stephen,
But yeah, back to manga. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I didn't know if you had any new series you wanted to bring up or.
Yeah, it's not a new series, but the second part of the newest chapter from Blue Exorcist came on June 2nd. It was on a almost year-long hiatus, and it's like another one of those horribly underrated series, just because it's and not to give anything away for people who are trying to catch up, but the manga really delves deeper into Ren's brother Yukio to a really dark places, and it seems that darkness is coming back. Or the mangaka is hinting towards that, that Yukio's darkness is coming back. So it's a very exciting time for Blue Exorcist readers, especially since it's now looks like it's on a monthly basis.
Awesome.
So yeah, that and not really a fan of the first new chapter, but like there's a new Shonen Jump manga that just started after, as Ben was saying, the season of cancellations. Yeah, like the newest one. It's called Aliens Area, and I'm trying to find who it's by.
It's by
sorry.
Fusai Naba.
Yeah, and it's like it's a lot of the tropes have been done already, but it's I really like the drawings enough where I'm interested. So I mean, we'll see where it goes. It was kind of underwhelming for the first chapter, but I will not judge too quickly. So
Yeah, has
I,
that artist done something else notable, or is that manga?
I don't think so.
Oh,
But
okay.
I know that the unofficial weekly Shonen Jump, like before a new manga gets debuted, they always do like a series of tweets about each new one, and I don't remember what it was, but I know that they were talking about this, and I think the mangaka has done some minor stuff before, but like this is their first big, their first serialization. So
All right, cool. Well, yeah, I
Well,
assume oh, go ahead, Ben.
yeah, I was kind of sitting here being like, is anyone going to mention Aliens Area? Because I personally did not like it enough to recommend it.
Okay.
Like I
Yeah.
actually don't like the art as well, so it's
Oh
like,
yeah.
it's just kind of it's
Yeah.
not my thing so far. I think it has potential, but I think like Dandadan's just better on the alien front.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm not even. Yeah, not even comparing that. Yeah. But I mean, it's like one of those things where it's like, I was like, oh, I've seen this before, but at the same time, it's like I liked the feel of it, even.
Yeah,
I
and
don't know, like it's not enough. Like, yeah, it's not enough for a recommendation, obviously, but just the new series that's there.
yeah.
But
So if you want to get on the ground floor of stuff,
yeah,
yeah,
but yeah,
Right.
like you were saying, nowhere near Dan to Dan. Oh no.
yeah.
Yeah, especially the last chapter that came out today.
Oh, I haven't read that yet.
Oh,
Oh
there you
yeah.
guys go. Well, yeah, we should probably wrap this up so you guys can go read that, and I can go see if the One Piece live action trailer is out yet. Um, but thanks for listening to Mega Manga Monday. It's been a lot of fun talking My Hero Academia. It is on break next week, unfortunately, but we'll be talking about other series. So if you're caught up on anything else, check us out. But it's been a lot of fun. Thanks again for your time today, guys, and I hope you have a good one.
You too.
Yeah. See y'all next time.